Okay, am I on? Doesn't sound like it.
Sound louder.
Okay,
We're good.
okay, the time is 6 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. I'd ask you all to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a hard copy of the agenda, but I'll take roll call. Dan Klimisch,
Here.
John Marquardt,
Here.
Wanda Fox, here. And I would note for the record that Ryan Heine and Don Kettering are absent. Do any of the commissioners who are here have any conflicts of interest?
I do not.
I do not.
I do not. With that, we will go straight to public comment. And we'll have that again at the end. Now with that, I'll call Mr. Solacek up to talk about the Yankton County 5-year highway and bridge improvement plan.
Well, so everybody knows.
For our home listeners, you gotta kind of stand by the mic.
I guess we can follow along.
Every year we do a 5-year plan. Gets submitted to the state. Main reason is for the big grant funds for our bridges. We have to submit this in order to be eligible for big funds. And it's also a good tool to go by for our road plan and bridge plan. Every year we update it. Things do change year to year, conditions of roads, conditions of bridges. It's always changing depending on Mother Nature, so. I guess we'll go right into it. For 2024, the purple, that's microsurfacing. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but that's a new process we started last year. Last year we did it on the Vollen Road, south of Vollen to Old 50, and then East County line, the 8.5 miles there. Anyways,
Mike, could you briefly just explain to the people here and the viewers at home, you know, what microsurfacing actually is, because they might not be familiar with that?
I guess microsurfacing, it's not a chip seal, it's not an overlay, it's kind of an in-between. What it is, wheel rutting was its original purpose in life, I guess. This process started up in Minnesota. Anyways, that's what it is. It's a mix of Portland cement and some emulsions and smaller aggregates. It fills, like I said, it fills in wheel ruts and smaller bumps.
As opposed to chip seal, which is?
Chip seal doesn't fix anything other than it seals your cracks. Overlay, well, that's asphalt. That's costly. Yep. Like our chip seals, approximately this year was $24,000 a mile. The microsurfacing was 56, and an overlay is approximately 155-ish. So.
1,000.
We've had
Right.
really good luck with this thus far, and that's why we're continuing to utilize it. So.
And that's, again, like I said, with the 5-year plan, if you looked at last year's 5-year plan to this year's 5-year plan, well, we did the microsurfacing last year, and then we did it again this year, and we had good results. People were happy with it. So I had to start all over with the 5-year plan this year to incorporate it into all of our roads.
What's the life expectancy of a
What's the expectancy of an overlay? You know, it just depends on traffic, depends on the base. Just like a an overlay, if we were, what I like to see in the county is when we overlay a road, we need to chip seal it within a couple of years, 2 to 3 years. Microsurface, yeah, we can probably stretch it out to 5, but we'll still have to crack seal in between.
I think, Mike, I think that from what I've heard, I think the microsurfacing, the life expectancy of that, if we don't do anything, is 10 years. If we chip seal over the top of that in the next year or two after that, we could get 15 years out of that.
Right, and the biggest thing is traffic and road base. You don't want to microsurface on something that's totally falling apart. Like for instance, 448 north of 46, that's 6 miles. That's too far gone to try to microsurface. Our plan is, well, it's on this, for next year's plan is to do the north 3 miles, and then the following year, the other 3, but.
So an overlay is 2 inches.
Inch and a half to 2 inches.
What's the
Microsurface is about 7/16. Like I said, all that's doing is filling all your wheel ruts and bumps.
And the cost, explain the cost difference between
Well,
an overlay and a microsurface.
Cost difference is 56 versus about 155,000.
Yep,
It's a third of the cost, and
yep.
we're still improving with it.
And if you drive the road from 81, the Tabor Road from 81 to basically the county road line going west, you'll see that's a microsurfaced road. And the road from 81 going west to Utica is microsurfaced. The road 303 from 81 to 448.
444.
444
That's an overlay.
is an overlay. Obviously, 444 or that Johnson Bridge Road is like smooth, like driving on glass. The Tabor Road is like driving on this carpet right here. It's not quite as smooth, but it's smooth. It's flat. There's no chuck holes. There's no potholes. Everything is leveled off and
Well, with the microsurface, if your profile is off, your grade, like most asphalt roads should be at a 2 to 3%. Well, if there's a dip in the road, well, it's going to follow that. It's not going to fix that as a paved overlay would.
And your prices, Mike, at 56, 155, that's per mile?
Per mile. So, microsurfacing from, on the Utica Road, 435 and 436 past the colony, so that'd be a 18-mile stretch there for next year. And then also Deer Boulevard down at Riverside Acres, Timberland Drive, and Chalkstone Hill. Also the streets, the side streets that the county does take care of down in Riverside Acres. I have that in there also as microsurfacing. I guess we don't, my opinion, we don't want to take the paver down them streets. So let's microsurface them, get them trued up a little bit, and that'll buy us a lot of time on them side streets. If you look in Timberland Park there, I have the side streets there as chip seal. Well, that got overlaid within the last 8 years. And then Oak Hills, English Heights down there by the lake there, we're just gonna stick with chip seal there. It's, them are some curvy, hilly roads, so.
What's the cost of the chip seal?
Chip seal this year was 24,000. So what I have on the spreadsheet for next year is 26. And that's a guesstimate. I don't know what oil prices are gonna be next. I don't know what the bids are gonna be next year.
Depends on who gets elected.
For chip seal also, the 3 miles north of Irene, and then the 18 miles of Walshtown Road, 444, and then East Side Drive. Like I said, we'd like to chip seal our overlays within a couple of years. Couple parts of these two stretches are, this will be their third year, and then one stretch will be its second, so. Any questions on 2024? We'll move on to 25. So Start out with microsurfacing. If you notice, I'm pushing harder on microsurfacing instead of chip. I feel in the last 5 years, this is year 5. Anyways, our roads have come a long ways. They went from falling apart every spring, having blowouts. The last set of commission, they were willing to stick the money into the roads. We had all of our roads in the county chip sealed in 5 years. And in them 5 years, in the spring, we don't have the blowouts that we did before. I know some people disagree with chip seal, but that's proof in the pudding right there that sealing them roads up keeps moisture out of the base. Therefore, we don't have the blowouts in the spring. Now, is that true to everywhere? No, we're still going to have blowouts because there's still going to be spots, but that has gone down tremendously.
What's a double chip seal?
Double chip seal, that is, it's a ground up road, or gravel road. Go through and with the mill, add base stabilizing chemical, do a layer of chip seal, and depending on the situation, like 294, we'll take the paver out there, pave 150 feet away from each intersection, just for stopping traffic, trucks especially, stopping and taking off. That's a lot of wear and tear on them areas. So we like to overlay them areas, and then chip over everything again. Oh yeah, thanks Gary, I forgot about that.
What's the cost of that double chip seal?
Well, just
Kelly,
on
you're
the,
going to have to speak up.
Sorry.
just on the double chip, what do I got in there?
I wish it was that cost. That'd be double that.
So I got it at, I got my numbers goofy there, but
52,000?
52,000, so that's for 2 layers. I was looking at 303, I only got it at 25, that should be 26. Anyways, so you got the 52,000 a mile there, plus we'd want to have a mill come in, mill and inject the base stabilizing chemical before that. So on top of that, we're probably looking at another 23 to 25,000.
We're ballpark of 75,000.
Right.
We should probably update that cost on that road then, because I don't
Well,
think 624 will pay for it.
For the double chip seal?
Yeah. It'll probably be double that or close to it. Would be
So
my
I don't
guess.
have the cost of the milling in this. I just did the chip seal on this for now.
Well, when we're doing this, let's just put, update that cost, because for budgeting purposes, we'll use that, and we know that 624 is not, I wish it was that cost, but that's a cost from like 3 years ago, and it'll probably be more like $1 million, $1.2 million, I would say. So we could just, let's budget that line in there. So
What line are you looking at,
we're
Dan?
looking at the page for,
2025?
yeah.
Chip seal, are you looking at 294?
Yeah,
to
because
450?
those were done, I want to say 3 years ago, and costs have more than doubled since then.
This is
Yeah.
accurate, Dan.
Yeah, that 624? Oh,
That's
Okay.
accurate without the milling.
okay. Nice.
Right, but we do have to fill in there the 25,000 extra for
Right,
the milling and the addition of the chemical.
right.
So that would be another,
300,000.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
then we're at 924.
Right.
yep.
Just like we talked earlier this year.
Yeah,
it-
it's right at $1 million to do that road.
Yeah, and that 294, that got pushed back due to 46. We don't want to build a brand new road and then have it tore up right away because of 46 being closed.
So then you do understand there's a lot of traffic on 294?
Because the last time I kinda got the feeling that you all thought it was just local people.
Well, I know once it's,
I know that when if it was fixed,
Yep.
the way it should have been, it'd have been worse.
because I know it's probably used as a bypass a lot,
Oh, yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir.
so,
I'm right in the middle, from 444 and 448. I catch it from each of those paved roads.
yeah.
They're always turning down 444, so they're turning down 448.
Do we have traffic count numbers on that road?
I would have to look that up from years ago.
Some days it's nothing, that's great, I can be outside. Other days, constant.
Yep.
Spring and fall?
I don't count the residents there because.
They don't,
live
yeah,
on
they,
the road.
they live there, but
I'm talking about.
The
these
other
are workers
people.
From 46, all summer long. I had gravel trailers, everything, I had everything. And I'm right in between, so I don't know how it is on the other end for that end, I know how it is.
in the
because
middle.
I'm right in the middle, and I'm the only one on the, north side of the road. And when that wind comes in from the south, summertime, oh, I'm inside the house, I can't be outside. I'm just saying, you know that it gets busy,
All right.
oh yeah. So I don't know. Go ahead.
Then also for chip seal would be 303, the Johnson Bridge Road from 81 to 444. As everybody knows, that got overlaid this year. And then back to microsurfacing, I guess, 448 from 46 to Highway 50, 14-mile stretch there, and then Whiting Drive from the city limits to 444. The road looks in good shape. Well, if you drive it after a rain, you'll see a lot of water sitting in the wheel ruts, so it needs to get, microsurfacing will take care of that. And then last, overlay, finish the overlay from 294 to Highway 46 on 448. Like I said, in 2024, we'll do the north 3, 2025, we'll do the south 3. On to 26. Um, 26, you can see again, pushing pretty hard on microsurfacing. Hopefully the Johnson Bridge will be done. We can have that microsurface there, up there on 431st Avenue. Lesterville Road from the county line to 81, and then 433 and 437. And then also with Highway 46 construction being done, 291st Street from 81 to 446. Chip seal, well, last year we had the microsurfacing done on 452 south of Irene to the Vallon Road. So it'd be in 26, chip seal that, and then from Vallon to Old 50, and then on 309 from Gayville Vallon Road, 451 all the way to, it's supposed to be to 444. He's got it stopped at 445, but yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And then overlay, 3 miles north of Lesterville, and also the 2 miles over by the hay mill, over by Gayville there. Any questions on 26?
Just out of curiosity, the 309th there, has that been microsurfaced, is that one that microsurfaced in the last couple of years by any chance?
309, we did it was an overlay, but we used 3/8 mix.
Okay.
And we did that from Walshtown Road, 444, all the way to approximately 449. And then last year, we had microsurface from 451 to 449. Because that year, we didn't finish the overlay all the way to the Vollen Road, Gayville Vollen Road, because we're short on funds.
I drive that one once in a while, so I was curious.
And honestly, you can tell a slight difference on the microsurface versus that overlay, but I think it's matches up pretty decent.
Yeah, like I said, that's a road that I drive occasionally, just trying to get a picture for how it goes.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're driving down that, like I said, around that 449 does not exist on 309. But in that vicinity, you can see where the microsurfacing was. Alrighty. Any questions on 26? On to 27. Microsurfacing, it'd be 294th Street between 436 and 81. 301st Street, which that road is a double chip seal that was done in 2018. There is some wheel rutting. That road, believe it or not, it does see a lot of truck traffic. At 2019, I believe it held up exceptionally well for the conditions we had that year. So, and then also on 451, going through Gayville all the way down to the end there. 446 between 46 and 305, and then this is Southwest Jim River Road, I believe is what it is, out by Kellen's Pit there, from where it turns to asphalt to Old 50, Whiting Drive. And then I have for overlay between, on 446 between 305th and 309. Reason that is overlay there and not farther north, well, that 4-mile stretch is in pretty tough shape. I feel that, in my opinion, we should overlay that instead of micro. Chip seal, it'd be the Utica Road between Utica and 81, and then the Tabor Road between County Line and 81. Any questions on that? Alrighty, we'll move on. 28. What year was that? Yeah, so in 2026, we did the overlay on the north of Lesterville or there, them 3 miles. So chip seal there. Going through the colony on 436, chip seal there. 448, that'll be a newer overlay, so needs to get chipped. 305 between Walshtown, 444 and 448. That was microed this year, so it's in the rotation for chip. I know last year, in 2027, we were looking at it, the Tabor Road and the Utica Road were on that, and that got microed this year. But anyways, I had to split some of these up just for cost-wise. And I felt, we could hold off 1 year on keeping them on the same rotation. But so my ultimate goal would be to get the Vollen Road on the same rotation again for chip down the road. Microsurfacing, be Deer Boulevard over there, 437 Avenue on the west side of Yankton there, that 1 mile stretch. That was overlaid probably 10 years ago, and it's starting to show some wear and tear, so might as well keep it in good shape. And 444 between 303 and 291. And I know that just got overlaid here a couple years ago. We'll have to see what the condition turns out to be, but we have it on the plan. So, like I said, the plan can always change. Then the Vollen Road between 448 and the county line there for microsurface, that was overlaid back in 2012-ish, 2011, somewhere in there. It's been holding up good. Might as well keep them in good shape. And then, like I said, on 309 between the old 50 there, between 444 and 449, that had that overlay on there. We'll see what kind of shape that is in, and who knows, maybe by then we might have to overlay do the micro again all the way to 451. So unknowns when it's that far down the road, you know. Any questions on 28? I'm gonna go back to 24. I missed something on that. So I don't have it on the map, but on the spreadsheet I do for the bike paths. I don't know if everybody remembers or not, but a few years ago we got a grant through the state. Actually, it was a federal grant through the state to overlay them bike paths. Well, if they're in good shape, let's keep them sealed up, because honestly, that path never had a seal on it since it was new, before we had it overlaid this couple of years ago. Well, let's keep it in shape so we don't have to spend that money again. Just like the bike path along Deer Boulevard, that has not seen a seal yet, and that got overlaid in probably 2016. So I was just looking out for maintenance, you know. Let's keep them in good shape so we don't have to spend the big money on them later. So on to the bridge map. Alrighty. So 2024, the yellows, we have Johnson Bridge, or not John, sorry, Stone Church Bridge. We're planning on applying for, we're not replacing it next year. The plan, the reason that is on the plan is to apply for big funds for our portion of our 18.05% is what it is that we have to pay. We're looking at $12.5 million approximately for that cost of that bridge. We have to pay 18.05%. Why is 18.05? I don't know, but it is.
Government.
Better than 20, right?
Right. Yep. So anyways, we're going to apply for, we're hoping to get $2 million from the big grant. That would leave us, the county, on the hook for $500,000, which I feel would be very, very doable for us.
For the whole bridge, that's amazing. And, you know, I'd just like to point out, thank Mike and John for their work on getting that federal grant. That was a very competitive grant. And it's a good thing for the county that we're getting that. There aren't too many counties in the state that they can say they got a federal grant for a bridge replacement. So thank you, guys.
And then also, back to the map. I'm going to jump down to the one on 304th Street, or south of 304th Street there, west of Utica. That one there is a federal grant also that we got a couple years back. It's in the plans for next year. It's a bridge removal. It's an old truss bridge that's been out of commission probably since 2010. And we applied for funds to have it removed, and we got the grant, so. We'll jump back up by the Stone Church, the bridge on the northwest Jim River Road there. So the plan there is we're gonna do a little horse trading here. The deck units, they're double T deck units. They're in good condition. The wood abutments are shot. And the wood abutments are probably about 12 foot tall. Well, in the bridge building world nowadays, to pour concrete 12 foot, what you want to do is go wider with the bridge, fill that in with riprap, and then not have concrete in that depth. So I got it lined up from a neighboring county. They're pulling out some 50 footers. Haven't worked out a deal on cost yet, but anyways, working on that. We're gonna get 50 footers to put on that one, pour new abutments, and then we'll take them deck units down to 433rd, which is a county gravel, south of the Tabor Road there. So that bridge is 28 feet if I remember right. I got it on the spreadsheet here, but anyways, we'll move them deck units down to that location. So virtually we're paying for labor and 4 abutments. So I'm gonna look into doing that more often if it's capable of doing that. So 2025, well, for 2025, the bridge for 2025 there north of Mission Hill on 446, that was last year's 5-year plan. That was for 2024. Well, when this deal presented itself with these 50 footers from a neighboring county, well, let's jump on that and we'll push this one back 1 year. That is one of our last load rated bridges on our oil roads other than the Jim River bridges. Yes, we do have, they're legal. 24 legal is what the other bridges are, but that is our last load rated bridge outside of our 4 Jim River bridges. So next year we'll get that one. That one will be a spendy one. It's got bents underneath it. So to get rid of some bents, we're gonna have to do a grade raise. Well, looking at the cost wise, it might be cheaper for us to grade raise it instead of adding more bents. So 2026 up on 442 over by Sheldon's place. Replace that bridge. It's timber abutments there again with steel deck. And it's county gravel. So once we get all the ones done on the county gravels and asphalts, we're going to start pushing into more of the township bridges. But 2027, it'd be north side. It'd be in Marindal Township, north side of Marindal Lake there on 298th Street. And then in 2028, kind of the same deal that we got going for next year, except we don't have the elevation, so we'll be able to pull the deck units. The deck units are all in good shape. Pull the deck units, pour new abutments, set the deck units back on. Like I said, same deal there. They're wood abutments, they're shot, deck units are good. So. And that's all I got on the 5-year plan of the bridges. Well, I lied. I also got in there for 2027, Fleegs Bridge. I don't have the okay from the commissioners on this, but we have to have this on the 5-year plan if something happens to where things are available through the big money, I want to keep that bridge on there. So I do have it, if you look at the spreadsheet. That would be 68, 156, 182 there. Throwing a number out there for 15 million, well, it could be way more than that, don't know. Applying for that federal grant again for that one, and then also in 28, then applying for big funds for our cost share. So it's all a dream right now on that one, but you never know. On our next sheet there, it's a sufficiency rating. I was looking at this sheet from 2018 versus this sheet. This is this year's sheet on our bridge inspections. We had a lot more red and yellow in 2018 versus now. When Gusted was here, we started to look at situations at some bridges where if we have a bridge in a location that's normally dry and it only sees water in a rain event, if it is capable of handling the water in a steel culvert, let's do that route instead of having a bridge. Culvert's way less expensive, and like I said, if it's in a dry location. So that's why a lot of this has disappeared too, is because we are making some of them bad ones disappear by doing that. Is there any questions on that sheet? And that also is, if you look on that sheet, the big score, the higher the number, the better odds we have of replacement, so if we're applying for big funds. And that's all I have.
Couple questions, Mike. As far as the dollars go on the road and bridge projects in the down years, is that all based on today's dollars? There's no inflationary figures in there for that, because you don't know what the price is going to be?
I did my own inflation numbers on there. How accurate are they?
You know roughly how much you get a year?
What's that?
How much did you factor in a year for inflation? You know?
10, 15?
So
I wouldn't even be that much.
I'm just looking just as an example, in 2024, the total road project's about $3 million. When you go out to 2028, it's a little less than $3 million. Are you saying that you factored in
No,
some percentage of inflation every year, and so
if I'm trying to keep it around that number,
around $3 million?
around that 3 million,
Yep.
because just for the fact that when is my budget going to start getting cut?
Okay,
You know, because we're dealing off a lot of ARPA money right now.
Right, right. No, I understand that. My question is more along the lines of, you know, you're, in 2028, you're writing $3 million, and in 2024, you're writing $3 million. You save $5,000, or a couple.
Less miles of road work too.
Okay, so, should I understand it though, that in 2028, your cost per mile is up substantially compared to 2024 in this plan, because you factored in inflationary
Right.
in there everywhere. So we're getting less done
Less done,
5 years out than we are next year.
right.
Okay, I understand that.
And also it's starting to shuffle with chip seal versus micro, you know, because by this, in year 5, if this would all work out, all of our roads would be microed. Is that really gonna happen? You know, that's all gonna change, but it could change with costs, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
And we sat down the beginning of this year to try to figure out how can we do more miles at less money.
Right,
And hopefully we can continue doing that.
right.
But looking out into the future, we don't know. It's unforeseen.
Little unknown there, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my second question was, is set aside 294, which we all know the story there. Are there any other current gravel roads that are gonna get converted to some form of hard surfacing in this 5-year plan?
As of right now, no. There are a few other roads that are ground up. And that would have to be on the commission to decide if, I'd have to do some traffic counts and stuff, and it'd have to be on them to decide if that gets put to a hard surface or not.
Quick question on the bridges. Looking there, so I see, in Estella, I see, like 3 or so that are listed on minimum maintenance roads.
Yep.
So I guess, I don't know what your definition of minimum maintenance road is in Yankton County. Where I come from, minimum maintenance road means you have a hard time getting through with a four-wheeler.
Oh, no.
You know, so,
These dirt roads, there's a few minimum maintenance roads that are worse off than others, but, well, there'd be no maintenance, but,
yeah, and that's where I just a curiosity of definition more than anything, or when I see that, it's kind of like, that's it. In my mind, you'd never put a bridge on minimum maintenance road, obviously your definition is different, so.
right. Well, we haven't replaced any on any,
No.
and don't have any plans of it yet.
I just, you know, the big grading and stuff like that, because some of them have a fairly high big grading. You said higher is better on the big score, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it could be 100 reasons, it could be somewhere that can see some growth or something else.
I was like, this year we, with the federal grants, we put in like 13 applications, and we didn't get any of them other than the Stone Church Bridge. But a couple that, like 2 of them bridges were on minimum maintenance roads. Well, if we don't apply for that stuff, we'll never get it, so,
So those really, they're on here because they exist.
right.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, and they exist and they get inspected every year, or every 2 years.
That makes perfect sense. I was looking at it the wrong way.
So one more question. So this is a road improvement plan, but primarily focused on hard surface roads at $3 million a year. I don't see any projects listed here on maintenance and improvements for gravel or other roads like that. Is that a separate, kind of a separate plan?
Right.
Is that more or less than 3 million, and then what's happening with that? Is that going up or down, or do you have any perspective there?
That all varies on, for the 5-year plan, I do the hard surface roads and the bridges.
Yep.
The gravels, culverts, we don't do a 5-year plan on culverts. Just like graveling, well,
Kind of as needed?
as needed, where need be.
But do we know what's happening with the budget on that kind of stuff? Is it getting budget squeezed probably everywhere, but I mean, are we robbing Peter to pay Paul in some of these areas? Or, I mean, I don't know if we're being more aggressive, and it seems like consistent $3 million a year spend here. I mean, that's consistent with what you've done in the past in current dollars, but is that taken away from gravel then, or is that leaving plenty for gravel?
That's still leaving for gravel and culverts. That's a totally different line item on the budget. Like this, on the budget, I have my annual projects, which would cover microsurfacing and chip seal, and then I have asphalt mill and overlay, which covers the paving, but, and then supplies budget, well, that's for asphalt patching, crack sealing, mastic, supplies, that covers tires, oil. And then gravel, we have our own line item for gravel. Yep, well, yeah, and then that's all separate line item. Secondary roads, the gravel that you're asking about, that's got its own line item, along with gravel has its own line item
Yep.
for purchasing.
I just know there's always a limited amount of funds, and so I'm just curious, based on this plan, is it taking funds away from somewhere else, or is it kind of in line with historic norms?
So our highway budget basically is about 7.3 million
Overall budget.
overall.
Yep,
1.4 of that's gonna be wages,
yep.
salaries. So that's gonna leave $5.9 million basically for everything else. And like Mike said, our our annual projects are about 3 million, like you said.
Yep.
So we're looking at $2.9 million for other projects. Now, like Mike said, you gotta take tires for the equipment, things like that on there, but.
Bridges.
But gravel, roads and that, snow removal and those kind of things come out of
Yep.
that excess budget,
Yep.
so.
And has that been fairly consistent? Is proposed this year consistent with what's been the past few years then?
Yeah, actually it is. According to my calculations, we've cut our highway budget by 0.96% for this year, so. So I think we're pretty well standard on that. Try to get, we gotta cut someplace sometime,
I get it.
so.
Any other questions?
Say, Mike, is there any way on that milling cost? That road's been around quite a while, does it need to be re-milled in order?
On 294? Yes, because I would want to incorporate that base stabilizing chemical into it, so
So that's the only way of getting that in? Cause you could grade it.
we could do it.
grades it smooth, and then just reclaim the road.
Separate some of the asphalt chunks that have been kicking off the road, still chunks.
Yeah, so like when they come back in with the mill and inject that base stabilizing chemical, you'll never get a more consistent blend of it than doing it with the mill. And then plus, like he said, with the asphalt chunks that do come up, well, that'll all be pounded back in, so.
So what's the purpose of him grading that road all the time? I'm just wondering, he comes down pretty.
Washboards. Where most of the washboards are at the intersections all along there. And then also back to that 294, I've been checking into it, been working with one guy on that, 448 and 294 to the west there. I'd need to get a hold of landowners along there. I would like to take out them 2 curves and then also lower the grade there, so you're not coming down to a stop sign, because you're coming over that hill and all of a sudden, bam, there's a stop sign. So I would like to try to lower that. So, and, yeah.
Any way of, doing a 1 year of chip seal, say late summer, and then the next year do the next seal of it?
On 294,
Split that cost up a little?
I'd rather do it all in 1 year, because like I said, we'll chip it, pave off them intersections, and then chip it again. So if the grade is out of whack a little bit in one place, we have a bad winter, and the snowplow is out there 2 times a week, and say there's a high spot somewhere, well, you're gonna peel off the chip seal. Reason, a very good, like on 301, I looked at that, how did I determine that it needed a chip again? Well, was it falling apart? No, but I could see that we were through the top layer of chip, and we don't want to let that go. So it was 4 years, 3 years later, 4 years later, we chipped it again. And that's down the road here. I have microsurfacing in there. That should help out with that, so. But, yeah, I wouldn't recommend, honestly, trying to split it like that. Because then you're only, 3/8 thick on the chip. So,
At a high level, Mike, when you look at all the hard surfaces in the county, and you look at the schedule of, hey, I paved this, and I should get in here and chip seal this, and do all those kinds of maintenance things that you want to do, are we getting ahead, or are we falling behind?
I think right now I feel we're getting ahead.
Okay, good.
Yeah, if we could have more money, we could be way farther ahead, but
Right, right.
I,
But everything's got a plan. This is
Well,
in the last 10 years, I gotta do this on this year and this on this year. And are we having to push those things, or are we getting them on time? Are we kind of getting caught up? Maybe we were behind before, or, you know, are we getting ahead or are we falling behind?
We were behind, and I feel we are,
Catching up.
it's, the 5-year plan is getting tougher to do because of that. You know, I'm looking at all the chip seal that we did.
Yep.
Now, which roads do we try to improve? Which it's, I guess it's not that hard to figure out which ones need it, but which ones need it worse than the others, you know? And which process are we gonna do, overlay or micro? Overlay, overlay would be great, but at 150,000 a mile versus the 56 is what we paid this year on the micro. Yeah, 'cause look, that one year we did, what the hell was it? We did like 14 miles that one year of overlay. The guys were kind of mad at me, but you know, that's awesome for 1 year. For the county, you know, to pull something like that off.
We gotta give Mike a lot of credit too, as him and his crew, they do a lot of things that other counties don't do with their own paver, and they go above and beyond, and I think this really kinda shows, so, you know, I certainly appreciate what you guys do, Mike, and, you know, after the winter we had, it's amazing we kept everybody, but thank you for doing that.
Well, it's like I said, I try to incorporate a few miles of asphalt in every year, because we can't get away from overlaying. Like I said, if we had more money, I would love to do 8 to 10 miles a year, but to do that, that's over $1 million on 10 miles versus we can spend $1.2 million and get 25 miles done, you know, with micro. So right now, I'm just trying to stretch the buck, improvements that way. Down the road, then we can look hardcore at doing some big overlays.
And just to give you an idea on the overlay part, on this year's plan, the overlay was to do the road from 81, the Tabor Road from 81 to the county line. That was on the plan to do an overlay. The Johnson Bridge Road was not on the plan to do anything this year. It was supposed to have been overlaid last year. So what Mike and I, we sat down and we said, well, let's, instead of overlaying those those Tabor Road, let's microsurface that road and let's overlay the Johnson Bridge, 4 miles of the Johnson Bridge Road. By doing so, we got 4 extra miles done for $295,000 less money. So those are the kind of things that we try to balance out visiting throughout the year, and that's why things may change. But, you know, we try to stick by the plan as much as we can.
Well, another part of that reason was asphalt went up $14 a ton this year. And you're talking a mile of asphalt at 1.5 inches, you're looking around that 1,600 ton a mile. That's huge at $14 increase.
Any other questions?
I did just want to talk about that budget a little bit more. We have to remember, this county received $7 million of COVID money. And we received about $1 million from the 2019 flood. Because when the 2019 flood happened, we gutted everything. So we got the money in hindsight, so that, I don't want to say it flooded our budget, but it went into our budget for future projects. So you're looking at $8 million extra in the county budget over the last 4 years. That is why Mike can ask for a $7.5 million highway budget next year. When you came into your job, your budget was $4.5 million?
4.3.
So without those dollars, your budget would probably be about 5, I would guess. So that 7.5 is only because there's an extra $5 million sitting in the general fund right now. If you look over the last 10 years of county budgets, which I have done, you can see where all that money flowed in. And that money is now being
Used.
rolled out to the highway budget as he can handle it. But at some some point, he will be back down to between $5.5 and $6 million with inflation, because taxes can go up with inflation every year. So those dollars have been going to these extra projects, and he's trying to get ahead to get these roads in really good condition for when that happens. The other good thing coming is in 2025, the jail's paid off. So the $600,000 of extra levy money on everybody's tax bill, if you go home and look, there is a debt service that comes off. That is not part of the normal county budget. And the vision was always, if we didn't get all that COVID money, we would be in a world of hurt. And we would, at that time, ask the taxpayers to potentially do a year-by-year extra levy for individual projects. But Mike's been able to do those individual projects without asking, because the federal dollars came in. So if you watch that general fund, at the second meeting every month, they approve the pool cash report. You go out, and you can look at the balance in that fund, and I guarantee you in a couple of years, that fund balance will be down. If he continues spending like this, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it needs to be done, that's where the money should go, is in our infrastructure. But at some point, every county in this state will be back where we started 4 years ago.
Okay, in 2008 or 2009, when that housing crash was, and the state of South Dakota pulled your budget, they took money from everybody, correct?
No, they have no control over the county budget other than the grants and stuff they give.
So,
That was the
so
school
all this,
system.
budget cutting didn't affect the county at all in 2008, 2009, 2010?
I was not on the board then, but I would surmise it did not, other than the grant funding. If we wanted to go to them for a grant, they may have not allowed the grant. But they had no influence over county tax levies at that point.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, the state ever paid into that back that they took?
Now, the biggest areas is in 2013 when, with criminal justice reform, where the state pushed a lot of more costs for the court and juvenile detention onto the counties. And John and I and Wander were at the county association 2 weeks ago, and especially in the bigger counties, you're seeing those costs where we budget hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for these juveniles that the state used to take care of that, and you see our court costs and state's attorney costs doubling and quadrupling and going up, especially in the bigger counties, why the state this year alone had a $97 million budget surplus.
Yes.
And so they've pushed, in 2013, they said, wow, housing these prisoners are expensive. Let's let the county do it. And now they have $97 million surplus. And
Yeah,
it's,
keep putting
and
it
that's
into
on
a
us.
bank account, and they aren't
Yep.
using it for any of us.
Exactly.
For the state.
But they cut your sales tax this year, so. Yep. Trust us, you're preaching to the choir here.
Exactly.
No hassle.
Yep, we're with you. And a good point that you bring up is the bridge improvement grant. It's gone up a little bit, but it was only limited to $15 million for the whole state, all 66 counties and 240 municipalities, and it was locked at $15 million. It has gone up some now, but that should be going up, and I agree with you on that, so.
Just all
Yeah.
that budget cutting back then, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
If anybody got anything back?
No,
I didn't think so.
Once they take it, they never give it back.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Prices they go up.
yep.
Yeah, they put it in the bank account, little rainy day.
Or a NASCAR.
And that's a good point you guys bring up, municipal budgets and the state budgets as inflation goes up and things cost more. Their revenue that they get goes up with that. With the county, we're locked into CPI
Property
or
tax.
3%, whichever is less. And so inflation hurts the county budgets much more than municipalities in the state.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I mean.
Yep.
Mike, another question for you. On your map there, does that show all of the bridges you're responsible for that are 20 foot and over?
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that all of those are on there.
Okay, any public comment? Step up to the microphone. Tell us your address and your name.
We got a vote on the 5-year plan tonight?
Do it at the
Yeah.
I don't think,
Actual council
I
commission
think we
meeting.
have to have an actual meeting, don't we?
The only
Because I
thing-
don't think there's enough people here to vote, actually.
There's 3 of us.
I was gonna be on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Yeah.
The only thing I guess I would like to talk about is, I know when we're at these meetings and they talk about federal grants, they really like to bundle 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects. And, you know, talking with John, I know Jamesville and Johnson Bridge are in pretty decent shape now. But if we would put them on the 5-year plan, just in case, if we could get one of those big federal grants, that might be worthwhile, because it has to be on the 5-year plan anyway. And, you know, so I would consider we add another sheet to this, you know, under special projects, and we don't have a date on them, but they're just projects. Yeah. They don't have to be on there. And then another thing I know was brought up is, we gotta be looking at, you know, some of these other gravel roads, you know, 310, 294th and Kaiser Road. I mean, I don't wanna put a timeline on it, but, you know, for the last decade, they've needed attention and they're still not on here. So I think we have to we don't put a time on it, but we have to have it in the list that, hey, these we need to look at and get a long-term plan for those as well. So that's all I got.
Okay.
But I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Well, I thought Mr. Marquardt was gonna talk.
No, I was just gonna basically, say I agree with what Dan is saying on other gravel roads. There's definitely, development going on in certain areas of our county that need to be taken a look at for infrastructure. Not only for housing or development and those kinds of things, but there's, you know, other avenues out there that we need to take a look at. And we can always take a look, and that's where Mike says, the 5-year plan, this is what it is today. But who knows, tomorrow it may be 100% different. Somebody might come in and do a development someplace where we have to change the plan. And I know there's longtime citizens that have been here forever, that we need to also look at our obligations to them also. So that's all I got to say about that too.
And I will close public comment and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Moved by Clemish, second by Marquardt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against?
We can stick around for a few minutes if you guys want to come up and take a closer
Yep,
look.
thanks for coming, everyone.